we have a spate of chief executive officers of companies in the UK resigning, some being asked to leave. So Ted Baker is the latest in the line. So I'm asking Juliana Olayinka, my colleague from our London studios. Juliana, good morning. Welcome to the program. Why is Ted Baker's CEO resigning, becoming the latest in this long list of executives walking out of the front door?
Good morning, Bosun. Well, Ted Baker have said themselves that this is the worst year they've had in their history. And they announced this morning that they're scrapping their dividend payout. Alongside that scrapping, their chief executive, Lindsay Page, who's only actually been in the job for 8 months, announced that she'll be resigning. Alongside their chairman, David Bernstein, he also announced his resignation too. And that's because they've also issued another profit warning. Their pre-tax profits last year were £50.8 million. This year, it's expected to be between £5 to £10 million. The UK retailing industry is really on the decline. There's lots of those who have planned to move online have done so very well, and they've left a lot of the other retailers behind, Ted Baker being one of them, because it's really a kind of middle-of-the-road retailer, not necessarily luxury, but it's definitely not cheap. Also, as well, earlier this year, they had a big problem when they overstated their inventory by 20 to 20.5 million. And since January, their shares have plunged about 75%. Now, they did announce today that they are bringing in some consultants who will do an emergency overhaul of their business, just looking at profitability and staff restructuring and all sorts. But, you know, not a great day for Ted Baker. And again, fast turnover of staff is never a good look for a company.
Not particularly a good time for UK's high street, or London high street, as you put it. If we talk about Mothercare, which is another company here, whose first half 2019 numbers are not looking hearing as Mothercare.
No, it's another bad story for a retailer. But with Mothercare, you know, they're already on the way out. Last month, they announced that their 75 stores will be closing, which has put into jeopardy the jobs of about 2,500 people. They said that, you know, it was just going to be too difficult to turn their business into profitability again. And now they've released their 6 months to October numbers. You can really see just how dire it is. They said their net debt has risen to £24.5 million. Also, in the 6 months to October, they lost before taxes £21.2 million. So it really gives you an overlook to just how dire their situation was. Of course, as well, we had Black Friday a couple of weeks ago. A lot of retailers were expecting to get a lot of their margins back. Mothercare wasn't able to do so. At the moment, all of their stock, all of their inventory is selling at more than 50%, and even with that, they're still struggling. So it's been a bad year for a very popular high street brand who is coming to a close. But today just reveals just how bad the reality is there.
In the midst of all this, folks are gambling their way. So this is gambling addiction. Companies like Mothercare, Ted Baker were struggling on High Street. So there's £100 million, I understand, that is on the street right now, which are extra levies on the gambling firms. This report will be out today. Any idea what will be in that report?
Well, what will be in that report is just how bad gambling addiction is here in the UK. There are about 36.6 million gambling online account users in the UK. 1 in 2 British adults do admit to gambling. Of course, not all of them are addicted, but a large majority of them are. And this has become a serious issue in the UK. And they're realising that there have been a lot of recent incidences where people have actually taken their lives. The government have pulled the 5 biggest gambling companies into account. And in July, they agreed amongst themselves that they would be paying 1% of their revenue to a pot, which would allow the government to use this to tackle gambling addiction. As well as this 1%, they also agreed to put £100 million each into trying to tackle this problem. So this money has been put in the pot, and lots of family members and government bodies have been working working alongside those who are addicted and the NHS, because this is seen as a mental health issue, into trying to find out what exactly can be done. Earlier this year, these fixed odd betting terminals, which are these machines that you find in some takeaways.
Juliana, I'm sorry to cut in here. Our time is running out. But again, if we're talking about addiction, we are just getting that virus or disease here in Nigeria. Young ones, school children, as young as 8, 9, are all gambling around the kiosks across the country. I think we need a dose of that gambling addiction committee here at home in Nigeria. I think we can practice that here. Thank you so much, Juliana. Have a great day. We appreciate your time bringing us up to speed. Let us get a bit of a sense of how we're starting today's trading day from the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Andy Sako is a trader at Capital Care Securities, and he has about a minute to tee off today's trading day for us. Andy, good morning. Welcome to the show. What does it look like from where we finished off yesterday at the stock market, down 0.65% to a Tuesday? What do you see, or what can you see in terms of outlook for the trading day?
Yeah, well, just a good morning to you over there. I do think that trading in today's market is certainly a mirror reflection of what we have seen in the course of the preceding weeks. Not so much to look onto at the point in time. I do think that sentiments still remain a bit weighed down. No thanks, if you must say, to the festive season that we're gradually pulsating into. I do think that investors are beginning to take holiday before the real holidays, and the market has certainly not remained agog with activity. Whether you look at it in terms of volume and value, essentially what we're seeing is that transaction size, value size are beginning to wane. But that, of course, is also not exactly unexpected. We do realize that, in fact, transactions or transaction volume will begin to trickle down in terms of expectations. But people who are looking beyond the season will continue to key in either rejigging or reshuffling their portfolios for year-end alignments and possibly for a more hopeful 2020.
I understand. I just hope, Andy, that folks are not selling down on stocks just to buy rice, which is about 27,000 naira per bag. There's no single stock on the stock exchange that sells for 27,000. So, so one bag of rice gives me a number of shares, even for Nestle, at about 1,200. Yes or no?
Yeah, well, quite an interesting and euphoric analogy there, I must say, Gausin.
Okay.
Investments are made in expectation of satisfaction of utility.
I know.
And of course, if you do invest in anticipation of having a bag of rice just for the Yuletide, and that appears to be a seasonal event, that's certainly not out of place. So you ask for a bag of rice, probably a gallon of oil to go with, and all that. So
thank you.
It's quite exciting.
Thank you, Andy Sako from Capital Care Securities. Ajibola Phillips will have just a few seconds to tap into this from FMDQ. He's the head of FX at FBN Quest Merchant Bank. Ajibola, a quick one here. We're talking about a bag of rice and a stock. What is the yield curve currently on Treasury bills, if I'll be able to get something out of that for the end of the year ceremonies?
I don't know about the bag of rice, but I can certainly tell you that Treasury bills yields are depressed at the moment, especially on the NT bills. Yields are down on the long end, especially to about 7.5. We have a PMA coming up tomorrow, even though the amount on offer is really, really low, but with this a home maturity of about 500 billion this week. So we expect that yields will come slightly lower again this week.
All right. Ajibola Phillips, thank you so much. We appreciate that. Let's check in with you after the PMA tomorrow. Thank you so much from FMDQ Exchange Place, Ajibola Phillips from FBN Quest Merchant Bank. That's all for today. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you again tomorrow, same time, 10 o'clock.